Hey students, this is day 2 of our basic skills unit, and this is a video for you to see what you may have missed today to get caught up. So you should have a basic skills folder, and inside that folder, from yesterday, you should have the Apple Cheetah Books.psd available. So you're going to open Google Chrome, and you're going to go to Photopea.com. I'll go ahead and maximize it here. And what you'll do is you'll hit File, Open, and then you need to browse to your basic skills unit folder. I have more than one, don't worry about that. And you're going to find Apple Cheetah Books.psd that you started yesterday. You hit Open. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you is in my practice, this program will freeze, and then sometimes you'll have to close it, and then you'll have to reopen the project. And if that happens, you're going to lose all your work that you did from the last time you saved. So you want to make sure that every time you do something important or that took you some effort, you will go up here and you click File and Save. If Save is grayed out, then just choose Save as PSD. Okay, so this is where we are, and what we want to do is we want to fill up the space. We have all the white space top and bottom. So I'm going to go to this move tool right up here, and the shortcut for the move tool, it's not the move tool, it's the pointer tool. The shortcut is the letter M. If you hover over tools, typically they tell you what they are, and they tell, the move tool is the letter V. So we're on that. And transform controls I have turned on. If that checkbox is off, then you can't see them. If you checkbox transform controls, you can see these little handlebars that you can grab. Now what I'm going to do on this layer is I'm going to move it all the way down like that. And I just zoomed out. I'll talk about that in a second. And if you need to zoom out, if you hold Command, there's next to the delete button on your keyboard is the plus sign. That lets you zoom in. If you let go of Command and then press Command minus sign, that lets you automatically zoom out. So this is something you need to learn. We also learned if you hold Command and press 0, it bounces you back to like this normal view right here. Okay, but I'm going to zoom out right here because what I want to do is I want to fill up the space. So the way we're going to do that, there's many ways to do it, but the way we're going to do it is we're going to grab this upper left corner and we're going to pull the project up and stretch it. But I want to keep it proportioned. The problem is if I grab this and I pull it, it doesn't stay proportioned automatically. And that's not good. So I'm going to hit Command Z to undo, which is our shortcut. And what you do is you hold the Shift button down when you do this. So I'm going to hold Shift. Now when I do it, it's going to stay in proportion. It's going to be locked in. I'm just going to fill up that space like that. And then I'm also going to move this to the right. I'm going to move it so the apple's a little more to the right, so I have more room to work over here. You can also use the arrow keys on your keyboard to move it very slowly, like you're nudging it, or you can just click and drag. All right, so I'll double click in there. And that is right where I want it. Now I don't want to do that again, so I'm going to go to File and Save, just like that. And it's going to say Save Changes. I'm going to say Yes. And what that will do is it will save over top of the other file. For some reason that wasn't there yesterday, but now it is. It's not grayed out anymore. Save as PSD is the other option if you want to do it that way. Okay, so got a little bit of. Now we're ready to move on to the next step. So what I want to do now is I want to create a background without the apple. So I want the books and I want this background, but I want no apple. And as you can imagine, if I try to erase the apple, it'll just go away and I'll see the white background behind it. But I want this background. So I've got to use some Photoshop skills. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the layer itself and I'm going to create a duplicate. Well, the way you can create the duplicate is with the layer selected, you can go to Layer and choose Duplicate Layer. That's one way to do it. You can also do the 2-finger tap, like a right click on your mouse, and it gives you the action menu, and you can choose Duplicate Layer. right there. And that gives me another one. Another way to do it is down here on the lower right of the layers palette, you see a trash can, but there's also, to the left of that is the new layer icon. If you drag a layer over top of that, it will duplicate it. That's another way to do it. Okay, so I duplicated this layer, and you can move between the layers. It's called Apple Books Copy. I want it to be called something else. So if you double click on the text inside the layer, it highlights in blue, and I can call this Books Background. That'll just help me know what's what. And now I want to get rid of this apple, okay? But I don't want to erase it. I want to replace it with background. So I'm going to zoom in so we can get a good look here. And I'm going to tell you about this tool called the clone stamp tool, or the rubber stamp. And it's down here, and if you can't see it, press the letter S on your keyboard and it will bounce you to it, and it should reveal itself. Some students couldn't see it, but when they pressed the letter S, it came back. Okay. Now the clone stamp tool, I can't really see it because the brush size, as indicated up here on the upper left, is only 15 pixels. So I can't see it. Now we can move it, make the size bigger, and now I can see it better. But I want to take this opportunity to tell you about the shortcut on your keyboard to change your brush sizes. On your keyboard, to the right of the letter P, there are two brackets. Okay, hopefully you can see this circle. I'll kind of go over here to the right on this gray area. The right bracket to the right of the letter P, if you tap it, it makes it bigger. And if you tap the left bracket key, it makes it smaller. And you want to use this shortcut all the time because lots of the tools have brush sizes, and this is a way you can instantly make your brush size larger and smaller without having to come up here and do this. Now, the way the clone stamp tool works, I'm gonna click off, there we go. You see, when I click, I get this warning, select clone source by holding Alt and clicking on the image. And on the Mac, we're gonna be, it's Alt Option. So if I want to clone, the way it works is I can clone pixels. I can take these pixels on this layer and put it over top of the apple. And it would look like this. So I'll hold Option and it turns to a target. Well, what pixels do I want to put on the apple? And I would hold Option, click and hold, then let go of Option, then let go of the click. And now, wherever I go, it wants to follow me, right? And wherever I click next, we have to rasterize the layer first, so we'll hit OK. Wherever I click next, it's going to clone those pixels. Now, if I go too far, it'll start cloning the apple, right? Because you can see that little target sort of following me. And so we can't just do it all in one shot. We have to clone different pixels from different places. But also, we have other problems like, look, I could accidentally clone down into the books, and I don't want that either. And you can also see that my cloning is really choppy. It doesn't look smooth. So I'm going to hit Command-Z to undo. You can also go to Edit, Step Backward, which shows you Command-Z. Okay. So, and I'm going to change my brush from a hard, this is at 100% hardness. You could either lower the hardness, or I'll click on this little fuzzy brush, a soft brush, and then I can come out here and I can use my bracket keys to make that brush larger, but it's going to be softer now, okay? But before I do that, I have that problem of I don't want to clone over the books. So one thing I want to tell you about is the selection tools. I'm going to tell you more about them later, but if you click on this selection tool, click and hold, you can see there's a lot of selection tools we have here. But I'm going to go to the rectangular selection tool. And I'm going to come down here to the lower right of the apple and find just that top of the books. And I'm going to come all the way to the right of the project, click and drag a big rectangle over this area. Okay? And here's the reason I did that. Because anything you select, basically any tools you use will only work inside a selected area. If you have something selected, it'll only work in the selected area. If you have nothing selected, it'll work everywhere. But what I'm essentially doing is I'm protecting the books from getting cloned on top of by making sure they're not in the selected area. So I've done that with the rectangular selection tool. Now I'll go back to the clone stamp or press the letter S. And now I can hold Alt Option and I can say I want to clone this. Click, let go of Option, let go of the click. Now the next place I go, it will start cloning. And look, I'm not messing up the books, okay? Now the key is to do it a little bit at a time. So I'm doing a little bit at a time. Now I'm going to let go. And now I will reclone. I'll hold Option. How about like right here? Click, let go of Option, let go of the click. Now I'll come over here like that. That's pretty good. Now some of that apple started to clone over there. And now I'm going to change the size of my brush a little bit too. And you got to look, maybe I'll try to clone a little bit down here. So I'll clone down to the lower right, load it up, and then I'm just going to kind of do that a little bit. Maybe do it a little bit up here too. Because I'm trying to get it to look really natural. Don't try to do it all at once. Now, I think it's working. I'm going to make my brush bigger and reload what I reload here. And we'll just sort of drop some in right there. And the key is to load it in different places, because otherwise you're going to get a repetitive pattern happening. There we go. So this looks pretty random. If you have a situation like this, well, let's say this thing starts showing up everywhere. You see that? So if that happens, then it's because you kept cloning from a certain area. So you can just use your clone tool to kind of get rid of those two, so that anything that looks repetitive won't be as noticeable. Okay, so now I've got this background with no books. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect, or if you go to the select menu, you can choose deselect, but you can see the shortcut is Command D. And you want to get used to using shortcuts as much as possible. So Command D will deselect, and guess what? I just put in a lot of work. I'm going to save this right now. File and save. This is very important, because if this program crashes, and it will crash on you at some point, you're going to be really disappointed if you've not saved in a long time, because you're going to lose all your progress. Okay, so this is essentially where we got to at the end of the period. Tomorrow we'll make this layer invisible. We're going to go back to the Apple Books layer, and we're going to copy and put the apple isolated in its own layer, and that's going to allow us to do some really good work with this project. So this is where we want to be by the end of lesson 2, is the Apple Books layer, and then we have a books background, which is the same thing, and but there's no apple. You hit File and Save, or Save as PSD and replace, whatever you want to do. And when you're done with that, you can go ahead and close the project out, and you're good for the day. Talk to you later.